Okay guys, here's the worksheet I'm giving you on graphing. I know this is a challenge. This is probably one of the rougher things we've done. I'm going to try to give you a quick rundown one more time, and hopefully I can really help explain some things. And please watch the video and make notes as you go through this. And if you really can't get past a certain spot, make a note of it, email me, let me know, and I'll try to re-explain that in a better way. But bottom line, the two things you need to be aware of before we do anything is that the period is 2 pi. Always, right? And what was I going to say? Yeah, the sine wave, if you can remember this, it makes life so much easier. Starts at 0, 0, and it ends at 2 pi, 0. Remember that. It makes life easy. We'll use it in a second. And the cosine wave, all right, is going to start at 0, 1. Going to go down, and halfway through the bottom it's going to be, or halfway through the graph, it's halfway through the first cycle, it is going to be at its lowest point, which is at -1, and it's going to end right back at the top at 2 pi comma 1. If you can remember those two things, it's going to make this a little bit easier. I'm not going to say it's going to make it easy, but it's going to make it a little bit easier. So I will very slowly go through this problem and really try to take you through it a step at a time. So this right here means the amplitude is 2. And what that means is, if you look at, and we're at a sine wave, so it's going to look like this. What that means is from the middle to the top, that distance is 2. So you know that there's basically a distance of 2 here to here and 2 here to here. There's a distance of 4 all the way through this wave. We'll talk about that in a second. The next important thing to recognize is this: anything that's being added or subtracted to this sine or cosine wave, that is our vertical shift. And the easiest way to work with this is understand that the graph always starts in 0. It's centered around 0, the x-axis. If we shift it up 1, it's going to be centered around x equals 1. This now replaces the x-axis. So the vertical shift is the first thing you want to do to make your life easy. The second thing you want to do is use the amplitude. So I'm going to kind of number this. So step 1, identify vertical shift, draw midline. I call it midline, you call it whatever you want, but it's the line in the middle of this whole graph. Step 2 is amplitude. Color code it. Use the amplitude, okay, to draw a top and a bottom of the graph. So if we're centered at 1, 2 units away from 1 is going to be 1, 2. That's your amplitude. That means the distance from here to here is 2. And the distance from here to here will also be 2. So your graph will be anywhere between -1 and 3 units high. Take a look at that. Those are the first two things, and that really gives you a little bit of a boundary of where you can put everything. Now the fun part is when you're working with the stuff inside here, the period change and the horizontal shift. Those are the trickiest parts. The number next to the variable, in this case it's theta, is going to be your horizontal stretch. Okay? It's also the same as your frequency. If you don't remember frequency, it's how often, how many waves happen from 0 to 2 pi. So this is 1.5. So from 0 to 2.5, this is 1.5 frequency. So from 0 to 2 pi, you're getting 1.5 waves. That's what it means. All right? But the best thing you can do with frequency, with that number, I'm going to write it over here. Actually, don't have a lot of room. You're going to do period equals 2 pi over the frequency. So in this case, it's 2 pi over 3 over 2. And that's a copy times flip. That's going to be 2 pi times 2 over 3. And the math gives us 4 pi over 3, which is really, really nasty. But here's what it means. It means from 0 to 4 pi over 3, we are going to complete one sine wave. So it's going to do this. And 2 pi, just for reference, is out here somewhere. So we're actually compressing this wave horizontally. So this is what we need to make happen. Now the good news for us is I have not given you any numbers to count by, so your best bet is to probably just pick an interval like pi over 3. But before I do that, I'm going to look for any shifting. There is no plus or minus here, so there's no horizontal shift. So that's awesome. It means we can start at 0, 0. Sorry about the shadow. I don't have time to clear that out. But we can start right on here. But remember, it got shifted up 1, so our middle is not on 0, 0 anymore. Our middle is actually right here. So we're going to start here with no shift. That will be a point. And we're counting 4 pi over 3. If we count pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, it's going to be really hard to show that. So pick this interval. So I would count 1, 2, every third is a pi. 1, 2. The third one is 2 pi. We can go backwards. 1, 2, 3, negative 2 pi. Alright, I'm just going to kind of focus on that window right there. So that's going to make it really easy to make this happen. Because now all I want to do, since I'm not shifting at all, I'm going to start on 0 and I'm 4 pi over 3 away. So let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to end my cycle. And the end of the cycle should always be the same as the beginning. If I were up here, it would be up here as well. Alright, so now one last thing we're going to look at. Positive means we increase it. If this were negative, this would be reflected. I'll draw in a different color. Okay, this is negative sine. Negative cosine would look like that. Alright, so we're just reflecting it. So if this were negative, we would be going downwards first. We're going upwards first. So all you have to do is find the halfway spots. That's the easiest way to do it. So if this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, just find half of 4. 2. What happens halfway in the sine wave right here? Here's the start, here's the finish. Halfway, it's going to be on the same line. So 2 blocks away, it'll be on the same. So it's going to go like that. Right? And then what happens halfway between these 2 points? We are at the top. So halfway between these, we'll be at the top, which we know is on the pink line. And we are increasing, so it looks like 1 block away, we're going to be there. So we have that. And halfway between the middle and the end is going to be the bottom. So that's going to be, between these 2 points, it's going to be 1 block, because there's 2 blocks, so one of them is going to be at the bottom, and there is our first wave. And once you draw one, now you can see every single block, we're going to go from the middle to the top to the middle to the bottom, and so on and so forth. So one more block. I'm going to leave that in purple, and I'm going to change the color on the next wave. So all my other waves will be in pink. So the purple is the starting wave. So now 1 block away, up at the top. 1 block away, in the middle. 1 block away, bottom. 1 block away, middle. 1 block away, top. 1 block away, middle. So we're going to continue on like that. And you can do the same thing backwards. 1 block away. We're going backwards now, so we'll be at the bottom. 1 block away is in the middle. 1 block away is at the top. And you can keep this going. I might as well finish it, right? I'm not going to talk through these, because if you don't understand that by now, you're probably not going to get it if I keep saying it. And there's your wave. Fun fact, cosine, if this were a cosine problem, it would work the exact same way. We go through the same process. But instead of starting at 0, 0, cosine would start at the top. So we would start right there. No shift. Alright, and then we would just pick, we'd go from here to 4 pi, so we'd go here, 1, 2, 3, 4 pi over 3, and we'd end it there. But the halfway point of a cosine graph, halfway between the tops is the bottom. Halfway between those is the middle. So you're just kind of doing the same thing. We'll do a cosine graph as well. I'm going to flip the page and do one of the negative ones. So here's the back side. We'll do this crazy one right down here, which kind of sucks, but if you can figure this out, you should be fine for everything. So, easiest, most important thing to identify is the midline. So it's a vertical shift of 2. So I would graph that right away. So we're going to go up 2. Our whole graph is going to centralize around this. And another good idea, we know it's cosine. Might be a really good idea to write 0 to 2 pi and draw that. Right, should help. So 0 to 2 pi, that's cosine. And what's going to happen now is, so we have to look very carefully here. The amplitude is not -1, it's just 1, because it's a coefficient here. But negative just means direction. So from here, we're going to be 1 away in both directions. So if we're going to keep this counting by ones, there's 1 away. There's 1 away. So we're going to squeeze it all in that little gap there. Now the most important thing is finding that starting point, but we have to use this. This is not the period. Remember, that's the frequency. The period is going to be 2 pi, and then we're always going to divide the frequency, divided by 1/2. 2 pi times 2 over 1 is 4 pi. Period is 4 pi. So for this particular problem, it's probably going to be easiest to count by pi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pi. If you count by pi's, this is probably the easiest way to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's -5 pi. So that gives us a little bit of a window. Alright? And this, by the way, when you're calculating the horizontal shift, very important that this theta coefficient is always separated from that. The coefficient of theta is always separate. If it's not, you're going to have to factor it out, even if it makes a fraction here. So pi over 4 is our shift. Okay, and remember, this is what our graph looks like. So normally it would start right here at the top, but it's going to move pi over 4 to the right. So what probably would have made this a little bit easier for me, yeah, a lot easier, is if I would have counted by fourths, but here we are. So this is pi, so pi over 4, we're just going to have to stay really tight in here. So here's about halfway. So we go halfway between there, so I'd say right there. We'd start right at the top, except it's negative. So we reflect it, and we're going to start at the bottom. That is the most important part we just found. Again, it's pi over 4 to the right. It's cosine, so we're starting on the top. But it's negative, so we're actually reflecting it down to there. So we're starting on the lower part of this graph. And then it looks pretty rough from there, but it's actually pretty simple. The period, this is the important part. So we're starting at pi over 4. We're going to end 4 pi away. So we really just add those. Easiest way to do that is, here's 0, plus 4 pi is right there. Okay, plus the pi over 4 is going to be right there. It's probably your best bet to do it like that. Again, these two, I'm going to point with these markers here. From here to here is 4 pi, so we're just going to kind of push those pi over 4 to the right, and now we have our start and end. From there, it's just cut in half. So these are the bottom. The middle of these 2 points will not be on the midline, it'll be on the top, because the middle of the cosine wave is always on the opposite end. So if these are at the top, that middle will be on the bottom. Alright, I got to rush a little bit. So if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, halfway between is 2. So 1, 2. At 2 away, it's going to be in the middle, but it's going to, or not the middle, it's going to be at the top of the graph. That's halfway. So if these are 2 apart, then 1 apart is going to be that next halfway point. So right there, a little bit off the line, is going to be in the center. And halfway between this and this, which is 2 blocks, is going to be 1 block. So halfway would be like right there, and that's going to be in the center. And there is our first wave. And you can make the rest of the graph as going off of that. So real quick, I'll do one more wave because I'm running out of time. I have about 30 seconds, so here we go. So every block we're kind of shifting. So from here to here, we're going to be back in the middle. From here to here, we're going to be at the top. Going from here to here, which is a block away, middle. Here to here, which is a block away, we're at the bottom. And you can see the wave developing. So there's a lot going on. It's not easy. Hope this helps, and just keep at it. Don't give up. Don't quit. Believe in yourself. You can do it.